Good morning, my friends. It's Roger once again, Mudfossil University, today with an outstanding bit of information from somebody responding in Mudfossil University, Gata, and it's about Leviathan. And, you know, there's been a question whether Leviathan is the dragon or whether it's the, the serpent or the snake or the dragon or the Leviathan, the behemoth. Who is it? This guy did a great job, and we're going to go into this. If you're here, you should understand about the dragon and the fish in Morocco. So I'm just going to show that one quick second. I know everybody's tired of seeing it over and over, but I'll show that before we get into this, because I think it's the Leviathan. I just wasn't sure, but I'm looking at it as the Leviathan now with this information from Trey the Explainer. And he did a great job. Now, nobody could ever, and I'd like to point this out. I'm not pointing fingers and saying, oh, this guy didn't figure this out, didn't figure that out. Well, of course not. Nobody is going to expect that this could possibly ever have been true. I mean, who's got a 1,000-mile-long dragon? I mean, come on. It's obviously not something that you're going to spontaneously, embrace. So, my point is, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody for their research, because everybody's trying to figure everything out, and that's all I'm trying to do too. I don't have the answers either. I'm just showing the material facts I have, and I'm doing it in sort of a spewing it out sort of way. I don't do the fancy stuff of showing nicely done things like everybody else does. I just sort of wing it, and I just say, here's what it is, and this is what it is. So I don't get as much. People, people want to be entertained, it seems, more than they want to be informed. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's what I seem to be finding. And if you can fluff it up and make it look fancy, you're going to get a lot of hits. Now, this guy's real good with his information. He's not doing anything crazy. He's just doing real good, but he's getting a lot of hits, and compared to me. But what I'm getting at is he's got good information, and I have good information. And I'm just trying to use his good information put forward in a good way to present my good information that is not put forward in such a entertaining way. Let me put it that way. So here we go. All right, once again, this guy's Trey the Explainer, and I would like to talk with Trey. I mean, he did a great job. It's very, very good. Now, watch. He's going to go through what he is explaining as the Leviathan, and I think it's the dragon. Here goes.
Start my in-depth examination of Leviathan. A popular claim made by young Earth creationists and other people that believe humans and dinosaurs coexisted is the description in the book of Job in the Hebrew Bible of two creatures, Leviathan and Behemoth. They suggest that the description of both of these creatures are eyewitness accounts of actual animals, most likely extinct reptiles like dinosaurs, mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and etc., and thus dispute the scientific model that humans did not coexist with such animals. In this video, we'll be focusing on the creature Leviathan first, and try to figure out the answer to the question, what is Leviathan exactly?
Now, he's going to give some fabulous descriptions here, so just pay attention, because if you understand the dragon in the desert, this is it, as far as I'm concerned. So, because I found almost everything that they speak about, how the dragon stuff that he spits out mixes in his throat, and all the dragon scales and the thicknesses in his eye, and all that stuff is there.
Well, Leviathan appears in the Bible a few times, 6 to be exact, but only rather briefly and in passing, in a manner as if the reader should already kind of know what it is. Well, we can first learn a bit from the word Leviathan itself. Firstly, the word is singular and denotes an individual as opposed to a species. The word is a name for a specific individual, like the Minotaur, or the Hydra, or Jormungandr. The etymology or origin of the word associates it with the Hebrew words of to coil, to twist, and its name translates to the twisting one, or the wreath-like one, or the circular one. The name itself is strongly associated with descriptions of a snake, particularly one in Ouroboros position. Additionally, this aspect of Leviathan's name has been suggested by some scholars to suggest Leviathan is a primeval sea serpent that encircles the earth with its body, which is a belief held by some of the Israelites' neighbors. Some Babylonian artwork often depicts a giant serpent coiled around the earth in a circle, serving as its foundations, and this seems reminiscent of the Norse mythological serpent of Jormungandr, or the world serpent, which similarly surrounds the earth with its body. These legends are in turn reminiscent of other mythologies where a giant serpent-like monster serves as the foundation of Earth, particularly the ones of Sumer, in which the defeated giant sea serpent Tiamat's corpse is used. Because of all this, scholars have suggested that Leviathan may, or may not, have served a similar purpose in ancient Hebrew mythology, as a giant creature that encircles the globe, or whose body serves as its foundation. And this is somewhat further supported by the actual textual evidence we will examine later. The longest description of Leviathan occurs in the book of Job, but it is briefly mentioned in Psalms, Amos, and Isaiah in passing, essentially as a mere allusion or name drop, if you will. So let's look at the text and look at the description given. In Job, Leviathan and Behemoth are alluded to in a speech by Yahweh, or God, that he gives to Job, a man who is questioning God for making him suffer. In his speech, God essentially says humanity is ignorant and weak, unable to comprehend or understand his knowledge and reasons, and therefore God should not be questioned. Several mysteries for people of that age are mentioned by God in a form of a question. Do you know how God controls the clouds and makes his lightning flash? Do you know how the clouds hang? Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea and walked in the recesses of the deep? Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you understand. Who marked off the dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of hail, which are reserved for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? Can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with a flood of water? Do you send lightning bolts on their way? Do they report to you, here we are? Essentially what is being said here is that humans cannot do or know these mysteries. Only God can. And then Leviathan and Behemoth are mentioned with the same type of rhetoric as an allusion. Can you pull Leviathan with a fishhook, or tie its tongue down with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? If you lay a hand on it, you will remember the struggle and never do it again. Any hope of subduing it is false. The mere sight of it is overpowering. No one is fierce enough to rouse it. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me.
I just want to make something clear. That confused me. He talks about who can subdue the Leviathan, and no one can. And then he says, who can put a claim against me? Well, meaning that he is the one that created the Leviathan, so obviously, who's going to bother God? So that's what he's saying. Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Nobody can get above God, because God is above everything. So everything under heaven belongs to God. So I just want to clear that up. So here we go.
Essentially what is being said here is that Leviathan is quite an adversary, and no mere human has any hope of subduing it. Only God can. I will not fail to speak of Leviathan's limbs, its strength, and its graceful form. Who can strip off its outer coat? Who can penetrate its double coat of armor? Who dares open the doors of its mouth, ringed with fearsome teeth? Its back has rows of shields, tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between them. They are joined fast to one another.
I have shown quite obviously that those plates are fitted together just absolutely amazing. Just as it says here, almost nothing can fit between them. They're just layered.
They cling together and cannot be parted. Leviathan here is covered with a thick, scaly, armored hide that again no human has any hope of piercing. Its snorting throws out flashes of light. Its eyes are like the rays of dawn.
The eyes are red and flashy and stream back, and it snorts out streams of fire and mixed by injectors in the throat, which I also found.
Flames stream from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from its nostrils, as from a boiling pot over burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze, and flames start from its mouth. Leviathan here has glowing eyes and can breathe fire like a dragon.
It's exactly what it's got. It's got glowing red eyes, and it breathes fire. And it spit it all over a gigantic fish.
Strength resides in its neck. Dismay goes before it. The folds of its flesh are tightly joined. They are firm and immobile. Its chest is hard as a rock, hard as a lower millstone. When it rises up, the mighty are terrified. They retreat before its thrashing. The sword that reaches it has no effect, nor does the spear or dart or javelin. Iron it treats like straw, and bronze like rotten wood. Arrows do not make it flee. Sling stones are like chaff to it. A club seems to hit but a piece of straw. It laughs at the rattling of a lance. Here, Leviathan is again very strong and very large, unbelievably large, with no human having any chance against it. Its undersides are like jagged pot shears, leaving a trail in the mud like a threshing sled. It makes the deep churn like a boiling cauldron and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. It leaves a glistening wake behind it. One would think the deep had white hair. Nothing on earth is its equal, a creature without fear. It looks down on all that are haughty. It is king over all that are proud. Leviathan is again very large and very monstrous. And this is pretty much it for Leviathan and Job. Job repents after hearing this speech and concedes that he is weak while God is strong and unquestionable. No.
All right, you should watch this thing. I haven't watched it in its totality yet, but I got to this point where he says he's about done with Leviathan, and I think this is the creature that is in the desert. So let's just go look at that one more time, and I'll point out the points that I made that he claims. Well, it says it in the book of Job here. Okay, here we go once again. Up in Africa, north of Africa, into Morocco area, the Atlas Mountains. That is what I am claiming to be the dragon. That's his head. It runs all the way down here. That's the legs. This is his body. That is his fearsome chest that nothing can penetrate. This is the tail that runs all the way back almost into the Mediterranean, and it flutes out at the end. Let's start with his head and his flaming red eye. Alright, you see that? I don't see any reason anything should be flashing back like that other than a red eye from a dragon. It happens to be right there. Alright, there's the dragon's head. That's his nose. Alright, this is his neck, comes right down. That is his throat. That's the flashy stuff and the fluty stuff that runs down a dragon's body and seen in the parades and so forth. This is not an unknown creature. It's known by every culture and everywhere. It's been talked about over and over and over by all of them. Now, it is dead and decaying. This is the runoff of a decaying, decomposing body. So it's on top of the surface of the desert. It hasn't been there forever. I mean, it's not buried. It's not buried. That's on top of the surface. This is its neck right here, and these are the double rows of scales. There's at least double rows. And they are lapped over and over and over. You see it? Boom, 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 boom. Nothing's going to penetrate that. And they're hinged fabulously through this whole thing, and that's that fluty layer that runs down. That's the flashy decoration that runs down the side of their necks and down their bodies. Now, this is the neck again, and this is where obviously breathes and does eats and all that business. Now, also somehow down here, if you go down far enough, this appears to be where his neck was cut, and that's where he bled out. Right? It was a red-blooded creature. Red and black is the blood of red-blooded creatures. The black is what normally is blue in the body, but it turns black when it's exposed to the oxygen. And the red is the same thing. It turns rusty when it gets into the oxygen. It turns yellow and rusty. And this is, any coroner can tell you, and I have pictures, I'm not going to show them to you, but there are pictures that show bodies running off with decay, just exactly like this. There's no question that what this is. This doesn't happen for any other reason. This is the decomposing effluent of a decomposing, rotting corpse. And that's his head, and that's his neck, and this is his bold and mighty chest. And it runs down all the way down here, across his huge, enormous body that nobody can penetrate or touch with arrows or bronze or steel or any of that stuff. And his tail runs all the way down, and it runs all the way down to here, but over to here we can still see it's quite obvious that his tail is here, and it is the same structure with all of these impenetrable scales. And this is the blood well, it's bodily fluids that are running off of this decomposing tail, which continues to run all the way out. And the flutiness, you see this flashy, fluty stuff? That is the signature of these dragons, of their like flashy tails and things. But and there was apparently there was a couple different types of dragons. Some of them had pointy tails and some of them had flashy tails. I don't know whether it's a male or female. I'm not going to make any big claims other than the thing is here. It's what it is. Now, what else about this? I actually followed this through, and it has the digestive system of a bird. It's avian. It has a cloaca versus, a separate digestive system. Anyway, this is the neck. So we know it's been cut with a sword. As far as I'm concerned, something cut it, something sharp. And that where it bled out, and that's probably where it died. Now, what about all this business up ahead here? How does he spit all that nasty stuff which is here coming out of his mouth? And what is it, first of all? Well, it's exactly the same stuff as snake venom. I have pictures of that too. And that is what snake venom looks like. All right? And then I said, well, why would he be spitting that all over the desert here? I mean, is he just from dying, like, purging his body? And I said, no, look at what he did. He spit it at this gigantic fish. Right? And that right there is a gigantic fish. And the fish's tail is here. There's a little stuff that's run over it because this was an ocean. Sorry about that. This was an ocean at one time. This whole area was an ocean. And it drained right across here and out into the Atlantic. It's very, very obvious if you look at it. And I believe this is Atlantis. I have videos on that too. Now, this, when it ran off, you can see the pattern of the runoff goes right around that fish. So it ran off, I say, at the same time these creatures fought and died, or very close, because it's going over the top of the fish. All right? It's not under the fish. It's over. Something has run over the top of the fish in that swale of the fish's tail. That's where the fish's tail is. So it's coming over here and it's swaling down and coming back up, and it dragged around here, but some ran over. So we know that this fish died prior to the runoff of all this into the ocean, or at the exact same time. I think it's the exact same time, but who knows. Now, what did he die from? Well, I think he died because of the dragon spit this dragon stuff on it, the dragon spit. I don't know what you call it, but look what it did. This is the flesh of the fish, and it's pretty good looking flesh. I mean, it's not decomposed hardly at all. And there's the scales. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of runoff from that fish, but I'm sure they died at the same time, quite obviously. Now, that's the stuff that invaded the fish, and that's the fish's fin. So that's my saying. This happened at the same time. They fought together. This ran off. Atlantis was here, collapsed, out into the ocean. The whole shooting match went. Now, so let's see. How did he spit that stuff? Because he says, well, he was breathing smoke and doing all. Well, let's see about that. And I did find that too. If you follow this back up through his throat up into here, you're going to find the injectors, and here they are right here. You see, they're red and green injectors. You see the red ones over here? They come down and they squirt right in here. That's the red injectors. See them? Right, and where do they go? They go right into the center here. And on the other side is the green injectors. And here they are. See them? You come back here, see them? They're squirting stuff, the green stuff. You see? All the way back here. It's better you get right back here is the best shot of it. See them all squirting in there, the green? Like this. He's pumping green, nasty stuff into there. When that hits this red, nasty stuff over here, coming out of these injectors, bada bing. In the middle, see, it's like a tube of toothpaste. You know, the ones that come out red and green stripes and stuff. Only this stuff here, you don't want to brush your teeth with it. All right, so that came out of his throat, and that's what caused this, and that's what caused that, and that's what caused this to die, and that's what the whole thing is one big fight in the desert. I don't know what else to say. All right, so our friend Trey was fabulous presentation. Its only thing is it was all real. It wasn't just you know, mythical, you know, hyperbole or metaphor or whatever you want to call it. Just some kind of fantasy. No, this is what I'm looking at is real. I don't know how you see it, but I see it as real. And what I see was written, I see as now credible. And so what if this is credible? I mean, I'm going with everything. There is nothing that you can show me right now that I could say is, oh, that's crazy. After this, no. And then I got other stuff that makes this look like the other stuff I got, it really is crazy. It makes this look gentle. Because I'm talking about planets being alive and moons being body parts. All right? So, it's a lot different than you were told in your history classes. And I have the evidence. So I'm not opinionated. I mean, everybody's got an opinion. It's just like a rectum. You know, we all have one. I don't want to have I'll choose my opinion over yours every time. Anyway, let's go with what we got. Let's see, Trey, I'd like to talk to you, brother. You know, conversation, face to face, mano a mano, that type of thing. You know, hook me up. We'll get together and discuss this because you got some really good stuff. I like the things you're doing. All right. So anyway, God bless you all, and stay away from dragons.